My entitled aunt tried to steal my inheritance, so I exposed her in front of the whole family. Let me tell you something about my Aunt Denise. If narcissism were an Olympic sport, she'd have more gold than Michael Phelps. She's the kind of woman who shows up to funerals in designer sunglasses and asks when the will reading is, not even joking. She did that when my great-grandmother died. So, when my grandfather passed away, the man who basically raised me after my dad bailed, I already knew there'd be drama, but I wasn't prepared for how far she'd go. Let's rewind. Growing up, Grandpa was my rock. He taught me how to ride a bike, fix a leaky faucet, and most importantly, how to stand up for myself. My mom, his daughter, worked a lot when I was a kid, so Grandpa picked me up from school, helped with homework, and even showed up to every awkward middle school play I was ever in. Denise, on the other hand, she was the family tornado, in and out of jobs, always between apartments, and somehow always needing a small loan that never got paid back. Grandpa helped her more times than I could count, bought her a used car, co-signed her lease once, even paid off her credit card debt when she accidentally maxed it out on a cruise. Still, Grandpa loved her. He always said, "She's still my daughter, even if she's a mess." Fast forward to last year. Grandpa's health was declining. I visited every week, handled his groceries, set up his meds, made sure his bills were paid. Denise? She showed up maybe once a month, posted a selfie with him to Facebook, and left within an hour. But then things got worse. He was diagnosed with heart failure. That's when the vultures started circling. Denise suddenly became very interested in his health. She started showing up unannounced, bringing takeout, hovering during his doctor visits, acting like the devoted daughter. But I could see it for what it was, an act. Grandpa noticed too. One night we were sitting on his porch and he said, "If anything happens to me, I want you to have the house." I blinked. "Wait, seriously?" He nodded. "You've always been here. You've taken care of me, Denise. She's had her chances." I didn't even know what to say. I told him I didn't need the house. I had a small apartment and a steady job. But he insisted. A month later, he quietly updated his will. I didn't know it then, but he left me the house, a few bonds, and his old truck. Denise got a small payout, enough to be fair, but not enough to enable her chaos. Then he passed. The funeral was rough, but nothing could prepare me for the will reading. Denise showed up with her hair professionally styled and an empty Louis Vuitton purse, because appearances. When the lawyer read the terms, her jaw actually dropped. "What do you mean I'm not getting the house?" The lawyer calmly repeated, "The house goes to your niece." I stayed quiet, hands folded in my lap. She turned to me, furious. "You manipulated him, didn't you? You knew he was sick. You took advantage of his condition." I said nothing. She stormed out of the office. What came next? "Oh, you're gonna love this." She launched a full-scale smear campaign. Called up every family member, cried about how I stole her inheritance, how Grandpa wasn't in his right mind, how I tricked him into changing the will. She even tried to challenge the will in court, but spoiler alert, it was ironclad. Witnesses, medical evaluations, the whole 9 yards. But that didn't stop her. She started showing up to the house. At first, it was just to grab a few things, but then it escalated. One day, I came home and found her in the kitchen. She had a key from who knows when and let herself in. I told her she was trespassing. She called me a thief. That's when I had the locks changed. The next day, she showed up banging on the door, screaming about family betrayal. I recorded it, sent it to my lawyer. That was strike 2. Then she posted a long rant on Facebook, tagging distant relatives, claiming I was evicting her from her birthright. I didn't respond, but I kept every screenshot. And then came the final straw. She filed a false report with Adult Protective Services, claimed I had isolated and exploited Grandpa before his death. That investigation was hell, but I had records. Photos, videos, texts, every grocery receipt, every doctor's appointment, every moment I spent helping him. APS closed the case in 2 weeks, no findings, but I was done being passive. Because Denise, she wasn't just entitled, she was dangerous. So where were we? Yes. Denise, my delusional aunt, was spinning this sob story to anyone with ears and a Facebook login, painting me as a greedy manipulator who stole Grandpa's house. Meanwhile, the truth was that she was the one who'd been taking advantage of him for years. I knew I needed to stop her, not just for my sake, but for Grandpa's legacy. Let me rewind a bit. About 6 months before Grandpa passed, he asked me to help clean out his old filing cabinets, like actual metal drawers full of dusty folders. I remember joking, "Why don't you just scan everything?" And he gave me that Grandpa look, the one that says, "Don't question my methods, boy." Anyway, while we were sorting through bank statements and warranty papers for toasters from 1982, we came across a weird set of withdrawals. I'm talking large sums, $2,000 here, $5,000 there, taken out over the course of a year, and all marked cash. When I asked him about it, he frowned. He told me he hadn't made most of those, that he thought Denise had helped with his errands and banking a few times, but he never authorized that kind of money to be taken out. At the time, he brushed it off. He didn't want drama, and he still hoped she'd figure her life out eventually. But I took photos of those statements, just in case. Well, looks like that case just arrived. I printed those photos, dozens of them, highlighted every suspicious withdrawal. I also dug through my emails and found a thread Grandpa had sent me where he mentioned giving Denise access to his debit card for groceries, but only with strict limits. The amounts taken out far exceeded what groceries could reasonably cost, unless she was eating caviar off gold spoons. And that was just the beginning. I also found screenshots of Denise posting luxury items days after big withdrawals, a Venmo transaction to a spa consultant, airline tickets for a girls' weekend to Miami, all dated after Grandpa's hospital stays, when she was allegedly taking care of him full-time. Now I could have gone to HR, or called a lawyer, but this wasn't about legality. This was about family. And if she wanted to torch my reputation at the family level, well, I was about to host a bonfire. I waited until my cousin Emily's baby shower. It was the first big family gathering since the funeral, and everyone would be there, including Denise, who still hadn't spoken to me directly. She showed up wearing a Louis Vuitton scarf and enough perfume to knock out a horse. The passive-aggressive whispering started as soon as I walked in. You know the kind. People smiling too wide, asking fake sweet questions like, "So how's life in your new house?" Perfect. I waited until the gift opening part was over. Then I stood up, politely clinked my glass, and said, "I'd like to say a few words, if that's okay." Everyone turned. Denise narrowed her eyes. "Some of you may have heard some rumors," I began, "so I thought I'd clear things up, because what happened after Grandpa passed has caused a lot of confusion, and I think he deserves the truth to be told." Then I pulled out a small folder from my bag and handed out copies, printed statements, screenshots, receipts, emails. Each page was labeled and neatly stapled. I'd made 15. The room went dead silent. Gasps. Audible gasps. My great-aunt literally said, "Oh my God." My mom looked like she'd aged 10 years in 10 seconds. Denise. She turned the color of skim milk. I kept my voice calm. "This shows over $30,000 withdrawn from Grandpa's account, all during the time Denise was staying with him. And here's the kicker. He didn't authorize it. He told me himself. These charges include travel, spa services, and other luxury expenses. And while I didn't want to say anything at first, I can't sit back while my name is dragged through the mud." Denise tried to interrupt, stammering, You're twisting things. That money was for... He gave me permission." I held up my phone. "I also have a video from Grandpa recorded in January. In it, he mentions exactly how much he allowed Denise to spend and why he was planning to update his will." She went quiet. So did everyone else. That day, the tide turned. My mom gave me a tearful hug. My cousins apologized for believing the lies. Even a few of Denise's longtime defenders looked disgusted. And Denise? She left the party early. That same week, I got a call from her. "You didn't have to humiliate me," she snapped. I told her calmly, "You tried to ruin my life because you didn't get what you wanted. I just told the truth. Maybe for once you should try doing the same." She hung up. Since then, she's gone quiet. Deleted all her Facebook sob stories. She's not invited to many family events anymore, and word got around fast. Apparently, she moved to a smaller apartment and tried starting a new MLM. No one's biting. As for me, I still live in Grandpa's house. I've kept his workshop exactly how it was. I even planted some tomatoes in his old garden patch like we used to talk about doing. And every time I sit on the back porch with a cold drink, I think, justice doesn't always come from a courtroom. Sometimes it comes from a color-coded folder and a perfectly timed baby shower.